Thomas
Hello and welcome
not
to
on
Capacity Messaging and SMS World. Thank you for joining this day 3 keynote panel session entitled, What Does the Future Hold for RCS? I'm David, Senior Product Developer of Capacity Media and Content Manager for this year's event. Before we get started, I'd like to take a moment to say a big thank you to this year's Capacity Messaging and SMS sponsors, Gold sponsor Bankai, Silver sponsors Tata Communications, Telefonica Global Services, Solutions and Vodafone Business, as well as bronze sponsors Conviva and Sparkle. Please drop by their virtual stands, as well as that of our virtual meeting area partners, and say hello to them all. The event platform is also available for formal networking and informal, giving you the opportunity to contact attendees, sponsors and exhibitors as you schedule your meetings for the 8th to the 10th of June, where you'll be able to take advantage of all of our networking features and features such as video group chats, interacting with virtual booths and one-to-one meetings. In alignment with the networking opportunities, we have a range of thought leadership content in areas such as A2P SMS monetization, CPaaS and omni-channel messaging and more. Check out our full program in the agenda tab, where you'll be able to see our full agenda as well as our pre-event coverage. If you have any questions about this year's event, please reach out to one of the Capacity Media team.
David,
here are the panelists for this session, and with that, I'll hand you over to Giovanni Benini, our moderator for today's session. Giovanni, all yours.
Thank you, David, and welcome everybody to this panel about rich communication services and the future. Very, very amazing stuff. My name is Giovanni Benini. I run Global Telco Consult, or GTC in short, and we are an independent consultancy company specialized in helping you to do messaging better. And we advise the whole ecosystem, from the mobile network operator over to the service provider, and finally the actual enterprise or brand. And this time I'm really extremely happy to have the whole ecosystem, the whole value chain represented in this panel. And to hear the mobile network operator's perspective, we have Thomas Welzel from Deutsche Telekom. Welcome, Thomas.
Thanks, Giovanni. So yeah, I'm Thomas Welzel. I work for Deutsche Telekom Group Headquarters. I'm in RCS for almost 11 years now, so quite some time. And to keep my introduction short, everything I eat, drink, wear, smoke, or anything has an RCS rubber stamp on it.
Fantastic. Absolutely the right man then. On the other hand of the spectrum, which is the source of the traffic, I'm really excited to welcome Andy Patterson from an organization that got in the spotlight recently quite a bit, namely the World Health Organization. Hi, Andy.
Hi there, Giovanni. Hi there, Thomas. So I'm Andy Patterson. I'm the manager of digital channels at the World Health Organization, and my job is to get more health messages into more people's lives through more channels, so that they can live healthier lives, make better health decisions, and of course, during the pandemic, bring the pandemic to an end as quickly as possible while saving as many lives as possible.
We all cheer for that. So to complete the picture, we have also the people in the middle helping bridging basically the brands and the mobile network operators. So we have the service providers represented in this panel. And I'd like to start with welcoming Virginie Debris from GMS.
Hi, Giovanni. Hello, everybody.
Hi, Virginie. What do you do at GMS?
So I'm the Chief Product Officer at GMS. GMS is now 15 years from June, so we are exactly on the anniversary date. GMS is a messaging provider, providing services for the mobile operators, P2P, A2P, P2A as a messaging hub, monetization services for the operators as well. We also provide services for the enterprises with our multi-channel solution, including SMS, push, Viber, WhatsApp, and RCS, of course.
Fantastic.
Happy to be there.
Thank you, Virginie. Then to continue, we have Cliff Holzenbach from iConnective. Sorry, Cliff.
No, it's fine. I'm clicking, so.
What do you do at iConnective?
Sure. So I am the Senior Director of Product Management here at iConnective. I oversee a group called Trusted Communications. I, like Thomas, have been involved with RCS for about 11 years now at some capacity or the other. But ultimately, we're doing work with RCS, with the Verification Authority, working with GSMA and others to help define the specifications around that. So,
super, thank you. And last but not least, we have Kerstin Trikalitis from Out There Media. Welcome, Kerstin.
Thank you so much, Giovanni. Thank you all. It's a great honor to be here. I'm Kerstin. I'm one of the founders and CEO of Out There Media. We are bridging the gap between mobile network operators and the advertising world, but also any organization that wants to get the right message to the right person at the right time. And to that end, and today that's also why we're here with our partner, Andy from the World Health Organization. We're focusing on our Out There Impact division, where we use our technology and our network of operators, where we're using tech for the greater good in this big messaging COVID-19 campaign that we will be speaking about today.
So you bring a concrete example to us?
That is right, Giovanni. We have with us today a little video that showcases what is to date the largest ever mobile campaign for COVID-19. We are reaching 200, we have been reaching 200 million people to date, hitting the 300 million people mark next month. And we're primarily using RCS. And that is what I would like to show here today.
Let's have a look.
Thank you so much.
The COVID-19 pandemic has been and continues to be a global emergency, and we are still fighting to prevent the spread of the virus and save lives. In December 2020, Out There Impact, the Impact division of Out There Media, committed to using the power of mobile technology for the greater good, joined forces with the World Health Organization to launch a global mobile education campaign to contain the spread of COVID-19. We are helping the World Health Organization in this ongoing fight, utilizing our technology to provide global citizens with accurate and timely information delivered directly onto their mobile phones. Our large-scale campaign leverages interactive and actionable mobile messaging, specifically RCS, Rich Communication Services, but also messages with link to landing pages, as well as system notifications to send information on staying safe to 300 million citizens. The customers of 15 of our mobile operator partners in Europe, Africa, and Asia. The Pro Bono campaign, Reduce Your Risk of Being Infected with COVID-19, Help Prevent the Spread, offers a feature-packed experience including RCS chatbots, rich media, videos containing life-saving information with tips and advice on how to stay safe. RCS provides for rich messaging experience with amazing features such as verified sender, brand safety, rich media chatbots, interacting and suggesting client actions without the user having to leave their native messaging app on their phone. The campaign is ongoing, and so far we have achieved spectacular results, with read rates of up to 96% and engagement rates of 46%. In addition, the number of people that replied yes to the question whether they want to stay in touch with the WHO reached 40%. The results of the campaign for citizens who do not have RCS enabled and thus received the campaign via messaging and system notifications were equally outstanding, with 6% average click-through rate, which is 60 times better than industry benchmark. To date, our campaign has already reached over 150 million citizens. And as we continue our ongoing effort to prevent the spread of the virus, our aim is to distribute messages to 300 million global users later this year, out of our total addressable audience of 1.5 billion users, via our Mobox technology and our operator partners across the globe. Life-saving information has to reach everyone without exception. A global pandemic calls for global action.
Great. Thank you so much, Kerstin, and apologies for the audience if there were a bit of audio issues, at least on my end, but the content is what counts. And I'd like to hand over right to Andy. Maybe you can give us a bit of background. How did you get to this campaign? Why did you choose RCS? And how successful was the campaign in the end?
So first of all, the campaign's still ongoing, so we'll know how successful it is at the end, but it's already showing some really good rich dividends and engagement rates. Actually, the journey started over a year ago when Kirsten and the team out there media contacted the World Health Organization and said, hey, we have an idea, we've got a plan, it's pretty big, are you in or not? And of course, if it's big and it's bold, we're definitely in, and we would like to try it. You know, the way we look at it is that we need to get health messages into people's lives where they are in their own digital journeys. It's very, you know, we could spend a lot of time trying to drag people into our channels, our Facebook page, our WhatsApp channels, our website, but actually that's changing people's behavior. And, you know, not everybody is sitting there saying, oh, I must visit the WHO channels today. What we're trying to do is get literally into the palms of people's hands, make it as easy as possible for them to get health information. This was especially important when not all governments are doing it as well as they could be doing it, or as well as they should be doing it. So we were there to bridge the gap where when the government was either in a fragile state or not yet ready with its communications messages to get out there and start talking about it. A final point on that is that, you know, we've all lived through 18 months of pretty much massive change. And I think we're all a little bit sick of COVID, right? We're sick of COVID. We're sick of the messaging. You know, if somebody else comes on television, some new superstar to tell us to wash our hands, we just zone out and we don't listen. So we have to become very clever in either the messaging being very pertinent to that target audience. So let's say female gamers who are streaming live on Twitch, or in the delivery mechanism. And this is why RCS was so exciting for us, because this was a delivery mechanism which I don't think anybody in the public health sector has really engaged with up to this time. And, you know, the click-through rates, the engagement rates have been so phenomenal that it's certainly something we're going to have now in our back pocket for future campaigns.
Fantastic. So big applause on this initiative. And back to Kerstin. So I'm sure it wasn't trivial, because to be honest, there are not many RCS campaigns, especially not global RCS campaigns out there. How did out there media manage to circumvent these challenges of this massive scale?
Well, basically, as Andy mentioned before, it's all about life-saving information has to reach everyone. And what we did in the beginning of the first lockdowns is, as Andy said, so we basically called Andy like, okay, we have this idea. What do you think? He's like, oh my God, let's do this. It needs to be entirely pro bono. And we said, we understand that. And we hope our mobile network operator partners will understand that too.
So nobody earned anything.
Nobody earned anything. Everybody worked entirely pro bono. And so the scale came because of our mobile network operator partners. We're working with some of the largest operators in the world, and the ones that understood that this is much bigger than life, much bigger than anything, and we all have to react now. Those are the ones that understood here is where we want to partner. And we're going to put RCS forward for whoever has RCS enabled. We're also going to do messaging, so that's SMS with link to those zero-rated landing pages, the content. But even to reach absolutely everybody, we even use system notifications linking to the content of the World Health Organization with that life-saving information. Coming back to the scale, so I want to thank Vodafone across almost all of their opcos. I want to thank Vodacom in South Africa. I want to thank MTN, Orange, O2 Telefonica, Ooredoo Indosat, 9 Mobile. So you can see with those combined, we are approximately reaching those 300 million. And those were the mobile network operators that are our partners in that. And I want to thank them for their excellent collaboration.
Well, thank you, Kerstin. And it's really reassuring, I must say, I've been doing RCS panels for a couple of years now, and so far it was always about something theoretical or a lab demo stage. But now we can see that it has real tangible results and mass scale. So in that context, let's move around in the world and see how other geographies are doing. And Virginie, I've heard that you at GMS have done a very interesting RCS proof of concept in Ukraine.
Yeah.
Please fill us in on that.
You heard well. You heard well. Yeah, we had that POC in Ukraine, implying around 15 enterprises, implying only one MNO, unfortunately. The issue with the pandemic is that, of course, all the priorities from everybody in the world are changing, really. So the issue is always to find time for that. But the enterprises really found time for it. They were fairly excited. As Andy said, I think the key also is to find innovation. And for those enterprises, they were excited to really get something new. And RCS is clearly something new. What we managed to do is, after tons of sweat and tears, we managed to ultimately do it. And people, again, enterprises were fairly excited. The end users were also very satisfied. We had a lot of exchange. We had multitude of P2A messages as well. So not only A2P, but also that interaction that comes from the P2A. We are talking there around 15,000 messages exchanged, and half of that being P2A, and the other half being A2P globally. So fairly good interaction. The end users are fairly satisfied. The click-through rates are fairly impressive. I think the key really is that the enterprises are quite eager to use that new channel for that innovation, as we mentioned, but also for the fact that it contains, in Ukraine, we're already fairly lucky in terms of richness of the messaging, because Viber is already very strong. The enterprises are used to send messages with a lot of rich information into that. They're used to that. RCS is only bringing even more because of the carousel, because of that even improved interaction. All the logos, all the colors and branding for the enterprises are very exciting. Many of them are really willing to embrace that new I would say that new technology. It's really bringing them a plus. I don't believe it's for us and for our enterprises. It's clearly not replacing any of the channels that they do have. The plan is not to replace SMS. The plan is not to replace Viber or anything else. It's just an additional channel. It's really a plus. And as Andy said as well, it's how do you communicate to the end users the way they actually want, the way they are ready to communicate with you. And that's where it's interesting as well for a company like ours to add that channel on top of our multi-channel portfolio. That's where you need, in fact, to have a CPaaS in order to be able to fall back onto potentially other channels when RCS is not yet available worldwide. But again, a fairly long story on the POC, on the POC, but fairly exciting with what the promises are.
Great. Thank you, Virginie. So we heard now about Ukraine. Let's move to Germany. Thomas, right before the lockdown started in February 2020, I was in Berlin at the official launch of rich business messaging for RCS, RCS business messaging, sorry, when Deutsche Telekom had this huge launch event, really well done, announcing all types of use cases and so forth. How has this evolved since?
Yeah, thanks. First of all, that you liked the event. I think everyone who was there has really enjoyed it. And actually, this was probably all our last business trip before the pandemic actually started. So yes, we have launched back in February last year the German operations for RBM, and we've done a number of trials and proof of concepts in the meanwhile with limited functionality. So we didn't have the full functional scope, and this will be actually launched next month. Then we will have the full universal profile 2 functions called with rich cards, with buttons, with chips, suggested actions and replies, and everything that makes RBM so interesting for brands to use that as a channel to their customers. We will use, and we will start to use RBM as a channel for our own communication next month as well. Doing
Eat
the
your own
first
dog
2.
food.
Absolutely, and frankly speaking, we have SMS large account messaging channels for quite a while already on our network, and the balance between external customers and DT own use in every country is about half-half. So 50% of our SMS usage for large accounts comes from the local operator themselves. So that's a good sign. So we are eating our dog food, and we will do with RBM. Why? Because the result is really promising. We're ramping up the reach for RBM now. So we have added in Germany quite a few customers to an RCS base of about 25 million across all 3 operators. So all 3 operators are doing RCS. All 3 operators have launched RBM already publicly, and we've got more than 40% reach into the German subscriber base with RCS, which is impressive. And frankly speaking, RCS is a bigger segment compared to iMessage. So the RCS has more reach in Germany than iMessage. There are more RCS-enabled devices, which isn't too bad. Wow,
good. So thank you, Thomas. Let's continue our world trip to the US, where Cliff sits. And obviously, Cliff, iConnective is working also on a global basis, but maybe you can tell us what you hear out of the US and the other territories where you're active.
Sure. I think well, first I want to give a shout out to the same last trip that was taken before the pandemic. Being a poor boy from Georgia, being able to say Berlin was the last place. The last trip you took was pretty impressive. So thank you, Deutsche, for hosting that event. But yeah, I think we're seeing the same thing. We had a start here in the U.S. with the operators that were part of what was called the CCMI, the Cross Carrier Messaging Initiative, and unfortunately that kind of fell apart recently, and now the operators are making it go individually. We do have a high concentration of iOS devices in the U.S., and we think especially as things evolve over the next 2 to 3 months, and especially as we get some of that core user base starting to use RCS on the Android devices, that maybe that kind of brings others to the table. But in the end, and really, I think that the biggest thing is just again getting that groundswell that we need, getting users using it in the U.S. I think we'll see a big difference. That's specific to the U.S. But as you mentioned, globally, we see a lot of excitement around RCS and the things, at least, that we're working on within RCS, especially in the verified sender. I think it's a big part of why RCS will be a viable solution, and we'll be able to deliver on that promise.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Cliff. So I don't know if you guys have heard, but 2 days ago, there was this conference by Apple introducing iOS 15. And the big headline was RCS is supported by Apple.
That's correct.
Have you seen that? So just kidding. I'm making.
Yeah, I was about to say this is I think it was encouraging. However, speaking about the Deutsche event, that there was some representation there at least. It shows maybe some initial signalings that maybe at least they're evaluating things, and that we can all move in that direction. It'd be great to have ubiquity.
So. I just don't want to only do the sugar coating of RCS in this panel. And that's why I thought, let's bring this up. So Apple still, unfortunately, does not support RCS, even not in iOS 15, at least. They would have missed a chance 2 days ago to announce this. And so it's now very unlikely that iOS 15, which is launching in September, would have that. What other challenges are there with RCS? Virginie, maybe you've just done the proof of concept. What could have been better?
So many things, probably, but let's start with iOS. Let's be fair. As I said, I'm not planning for RCS to replace SMS. In fact, I'm not planning for it to be as ubiquitous as SMS. Does it really matter if we can reach everybody? Does it really matter that much? As long as I'm praying for my own church, of course, but as long as we have people that are able to help the enterprises and to help the brands to ultimately reach out to the consumer the way the consumers are interested in, that doesn't really matter that much. Again, there is fallback on SMS with RCS. We can do fallbacks on Viber, on WhatsApp, on push, on any other channels that you might imagine. So that's could this be better if the coverage would be full and iOS would be supporting it? Yes, of course. Is it so much an issue? I don't think so. I think that the largest issue that we can see is much more from the two sides of the house again. One on the MNO side, with the MNOs not being fully ready to support RCS, even if not all of them, again, coverage could be an issue there, but even if not all of them are ready, we need more coverage. We clearly need more MNOs to support that. That's going relatively well in certain parts of the world, but for more developing countries, I would say it's still fairly difficult to ramp up. Although this is where Android penetration is the largest, so this is where it's most probably the most interesting for Google and for providers like us and for the enterprises, therefore, to reach the end users. And on the other side of the house, we have also the enterprises that are quite eager to adopt that new channel, as we talked about. But then this new channel also implies a lot of interaction, and interaction comes with the chatbots. And in reality, despite the world talking about WhatsApp and how the interaction is great, the reality, as we've seen, had been a little bit different. Not all the enterprises, not all the brands are ready to interact with their end users in real life. So we've had, for example, for that POC, we really had to take the hand of our enterprises customers and help them for those chatbots, help them about the interconnection scenarios. That was really something tough for the enterprises as well. So there is, I think, that kind of pivoting on the way the enterprises dialogue with the end users. This pivoting has to happen as well. That's why it's all about the education, right? It's all about how we help people to do that.
So we have an enterprise here. Let me ask Andy right away, what challenges did you face when creating this campaign?
So I'll answer this with two sides, the challenges, but also the benefits of the RCS and why we were so excited to it. The challenges for us was the ever-changing messages, right? We're in the middle of a pandemic and we're building the ship as we're sailing. So we're trying to figure out what important messages need to get to people at the right time. The second thing is everybody in the world was at a different level of the epidemiological curve, which means the outbreak was not always in the same place. So as we saw that once China had its outbreak, the next place was Italy. We needed to get messages in Italian to Italian populations in Italy to support the government there as quickly as possible. But those are not the same messages which we needed to give to the UK or Africa at that same time because they didn't have outbreaks. We had to give them very different type of messaging. So one of the challenges which out there media, the headaches that we had was we would be ready to go with a campaign. And then I would say, wait a minute, we've just got this latest bit of guidance that we can't go without because otherwise we could be risking people's lives. So it was the last minute changes and trying to massage, square pegs into round holes, as they say. So that was very tricky. On the upside, because I don't want to leave it on a negative note, one of the things which RCS was so exciting for us is sometimes we have to explain very complex situations. And RCS enabled us to do that with the graphics, with the colors, with the interaction. And that was really important to us, because it's not necessarily just a quick brand, buy our product type approach. We're teaching people on how to behave more carefully so that they can protect themselves and their loved ones. So for us, the challenges with the messages, as I say, which were constantly changing, the populations which needed different messages at different times. So trying to find evergreen messages for everybody is very difficult. But the advantage was very complex messages can be explained with RCS much more easily than you could with text messages or SMS messages, for sure.
Great. Thank you, Andy. So Andy had the big advantage that he got the campaign for free with perfect support from Out There Media and all the mobile network operators. But Thomas, let me ask you, are you intending to earn money with RCS? And if yes, how? And who would pay for it?
Well, we all learned in the past couple of years that getting money from subscribers for messaging is something that is of the past. So there is no business opportunity anymore. But we think that a channel to communicate with your customers is valuable for each brand, for each company, and it doesn't start with a large corporate. It starts with a small business customers. For instance, a hairdresser who is sick of always stopping his work and then go to the phone to pick it up, make a new appointment with a new client, and then go back to his job. Why not having a platform that automatically organizes appointments for the hairdresser, for the doctors, and we see those platforms actually coming up as of today via chatbot. And RCS and RBM is an interesting channel for that because you can use it very comfortably on the move, wherever you are. You've got your phone with you, you've got the application on your phone, and if not every phone supports it, then at least half of the customers are well served. And we think this value is something where the operators can get a share of. And we see very positive signs from multiple sides that this is a realistic opportunity to get our investments over the last 10 years into RCS back and start generate a revenue stream.
Right. So the businesses, except Andy, are going to pay.
Yeah, that's fine.
And feed the thing. So, I mean, which is resembling the model we have today with A2P SMS. The sender pays for the communication. What we see with SMS is that there are a few challenges on the fraud, the spam, the unwanted type of traffic. And Cliff, maybe you can enlighten us. Is it going to be exactly the same with RCS, or are there mechanisms in RCS that make it better?
Well, I mean, I think just by nature, the technology is different, right? So it utilizes IP technology. There's a lot more things you can do, especially with smart devices, smartphones, and other things in terms of certificates and other mechanisms. One of the key features that was kind of early on thought about within RCS and definitely within Universal Profile, as well as in the specifications, or more importantly, some of the business structures that have been put around RCS, is the verified sender via verification authorities, which is something that iConnected participates in, which is where you verify an entity, make sure that they are who they say they are, and that generally the person who's representing that company has the right to do so. But more so through the creation of web token, you submit that into the rich business messaging platform without getting too technical. But basically what it does is it allows you to give the little green check mark, if you will, that says that this, yeah, exactly. It says this has been verified. And that creates a lot of value, not only for the enterprise, but it gives assurances to the person on the other end to let them know that they're actually speaking to the right person. And like, for example, In the U.S., we're just about to launch a Stir Shaken initiative, which is kind of does the similar functions on the voice side. And so I think consumers are going to come to expect that green check mark for sure, especially when they're communicating with a business over their mobile device. But again, we're aiming for that same level of trust in RCS. And I think Google's recently launched their verified SMS service and verified calls. I think they've had really good uptick with seeing folks who are more likely to purchase in those scenarios. But I think ultimately we're going to have to add these levels of trust to all existing communication mechanisms. If you just take the WHO example, right, there was so much fraud that was perpetrated when COVID came about. There was tons of smishing campaigns. There were I think if you go to the Federal Trade Communications Commission's website in the US, there's literally just a laundry list of known fraud instances of people trying to be defrauded under the guise of COVID, whether it was charitable organizations or what have you. So when the WHO launched this campaign, right, they had verified sender, they had the little lock key at the top that let them know that they were actually talking to WHO. So I think some of these security mechanisms, including encryption and other things like that will exist in the RBM side of things are going to be critical.
Great. And Kerstin, let me ask right away, did you explicitly use this verification feature?
Of course. Yes, of course. And we believe it is one of the 5 most important reasons why this campaign was so successful, with this 96% read rate that you saw in the video, and 40% of people actually opted in the end of the campaign to receive more information from the World Health Organization. Verified sender, that all messages were coming from the World Health Organization, of course, and we completely agree with what Cliff said.
So now you made me curious, what are the other 4?
Okay, so that is the targeting, obviously. It has to be, whatever format has to be targeted to the handset, to the people that actually received it. It's localization, so we used all of the available WHO languages. It always has to be local. We went out in Indonesia, as well as in other parts of Southeast Asia, across Africa, the Middle East, Europe, obviously always in local languages. Then the very, very creative interactive formats that also Andy spoke about, that we created in-house with engaging chatbots, with engaging carousels, videos. The fact that everything is 0 rated, super important, so that it does not eat into people's data plan. That doesn't matter so much in Germany and the UK, but it very much matters in Africa or across Asia, that the interaction is not eating into your data plan. Those were the 5, I believe.
Yeah, thank
you.
Verified
sender, and targeting. I would like to add something here. Basically to what Thomas was saying. We share that point of view 100%. The money is coming from the advertising world, be it the small or the big advertiser. I'd like, if you allow me, Giovanni, to throw a few numbers to put perspective into that and to give the mobile operators hope on that massive new revenue stream coming from RCS. Is that okay with you?
Well, just verbally, I think, because otherwise we're already short on time.
Yes, really
give
quick.
us the highlight.
I think this is really important. We're looking at RCS from a little bit of a different perspective. We're looking at it, the money and the budget's coming exactly from the advertiser, from digital media spend. Today in the world, total advertising spend, everything is $700 billion. $350 billion are digital. Yeah, that's everything. TV, print, digital, anything advertising. 350 is digital. Out of that, 70% today go to Google and Facebook, the duopoly. What we are saying is that for the first time in a very long time, the mobile network operators have a super attractive, super engaging channel at their hand. Which combines the best of 2 worlds, the universality of SMS with the richness and interactivity of rich media. We are looking at exactly that pie, the 350 billion digital pie, and that 70% today going to Google and Facebook, shifting over 20% of that, approximately $65 billion to RCS, and therefore to the RCS ecosystem, and especially, of course, the lion's share goes to the mobile network operators. That is the pie that we're eyeing. It's the digital advertising pie, and that is a significant stream, talking about 60 billion going that way. That's how we see the world of RCS.
This is exactly the big picture thinking that we all should apply and should make us confident. And I would like to hear from everybody. We have just 5 minutes to go. So Thomas, do you share these numbers and confidence?
I share the confidence. I share the numbers for the advertising market. I would just like to highlight that we're not talking about advertising only, because advertising is something from a consumer perspective, which comes with a negative touch. We're doing services. We're enabling services. So if next year you can register your car over a chatbot on your phone, this would be a great service, because you don't have to go to the government offices to complete that action. If you're able to instead of making a call and waiting in the IVR line for 20 minutes, if you can just solve your problem using a chatbot, that would be fantastic. And for the businesses, it is very interesting just to reduce cost, because chatbots work for the standard processes. They work fine, and 24/7. It's an amazing opportunity to A, reduce cost, and B, use the people who are there, that they can help the customers with their complex issues and not with the time-wasting, very, very simple things.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Thomas. And speaking of complex issues, I'm just reading that we had some technical difficulties with the live stream at the beginning. So unfortunately, you guys out there missed our opening discussions and the live stream. But we will make this recording available in full quality for you to look up for the things that you missed or share with colleagues later. But I'd like to continue with the closing statements. Virginie, how do you see the future for RCS?
So I love what Kirsten said. It's really exciting to hear such big numbers. I think it's also going to be a big push for the MNOs. It must also be a big trigger for the MNOs to really move forward with it. The enterprises are there, the advertisers are there. I think also to emphasize what Thomas said, we're also there to simplify the daily life of the end users. SMS was already something that could help them. All those OTT channels are also helping them. Let's enable them further. Great advantage of RCS is the all-in-one and everything in my pocket. And that's also what we are quite eager to see becoming live, really.
Cool. Thank you. And Cliff, any game changers you see that would help RCS?
Yeah, I think again, like the numbers, Kirsten actually speak for themselves. I think the enterprise is willing to spend for sure. I think the enterprise is also looking for something that's relatively simple, right, to get to market with. And I think there are alternatives today to RCS, and not to paint a bleak picture, because the future is not bleak for RCS at all. However, getting to market quickly, I think it is key. We can't be looking for all these competitive advantages, MNO to MNO or service provider to service provider. That in terms of if you look at why is SMS MMS successful, is because the business model that the operator put to market was relatively consistent no matter where you're at in the world, and it's ubiquitous. And I think if we can get those two things right, then the enterprise is going to I think the numbers that Kirsten mentioned could actually be well understated. So I think, again, the future and the promise of RCS is there. We just have to deliver on it.
Super. And last but not least, Andy, I mean, you were kind of the guinea pig for the first global RCS campaign. How does it feel, and what do you think going forward you will do with RCS?
Well, I'm looking forward from the call from the Guinness Book of Records to get our name down in print, or any journalist who wants to cover the story. You know, seriously, I would love to hear from people to talk about this as a bigger event, because one of the things we want to do is a legacy for public health and for nonprofits on what digital health interventions work. I just want to go back to what Thomas said, if I may, very quickly. He talked about services. This is where I see global health being very, very interested in the services. We have started chatbots on smoking cessation, how to stop smoking, how to stop tobacco. I remember, Thomas, at the beginning, you said you eat, breathe, smoke, and RCS. So maybe you could also come along and try this, how to stop smoking with a chatbot. These are the services we would like to provide, because obviously things like smoking, things like diet, things like protecting your heart, physical activity can all be taught to people, and not all countries have it. So we will be heavily interested in looking at how services can reach people so that on demand they can start getting healthier at their own time, at their own pace, in their own little lives, without having to speak to other people. So from my side, that's where we go. On a personal level, I hope the pandemic has shown us that we should respect doctors and nurses a lot more than football stars and entertainers. But that's my personal point.
Thank you, Andy. And with that, I'd like to thank all the panelists. It's been a very entertaining and informative session, I find. Apologies to the viewers for the technical issues. Again, just look at the link in the swap card, which has the full recording very shortly. And let's look for a bright future with RCS coming along. Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you ever so much there to the speakers for an insightful panel. But yeah, as Giovanni has recognised there and acknowledged there, do all apologies to the viewers there due to the technical difficulties experienced with the live stream mechanism to our virtual event platform in the opening minutes of the debate there. But hopefully we've got the gist of the panel discussion itself. I just want to say thanks to the panel, to the sponsors for this year's event. Please do find time to engage with them. The next and penultimate session of this year's program is our panel at 3 p.m. BST entitled Delivering True Omnichannel Messaging to Our Enterprises. All of our sessions will be made available on demand on Swapcard for up to 30 days after the conclusion of this year's event, so you won't miss a second from this year's program. Thank you very much for joining us, and we hope you enjoy the rest of the event. Goodbye for now.